The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Hey, welcome to the show. I have a ton of great stuff to tell you about today. I want to start with a couple of interesting things related to Republicans, some of which you might accidentally think were OBGYNs based on how much they talk about women's health and health care. One of those is Rick Perry, Lewis. Some people know him as the governor of Texas. Others know him as OBGYN Rick Perry.
Right.
Well, you know, I guess you could be both, presumably.
In theory, yeah.
Rick Perry is saying
Let's not confuse anyone here, though. He is not a licensed gynecologist.
No, he's not licensed, but
right.
Licenses are tainted with liberal bias.
Self-proclaimed expert.
Rick Perry is saying that the Medicaid expansion is like adding 1,000 people to the Titanic. Let's take a look at some of this video, Lewis. This is Rick Perry. He went on, what channel did he go on? I think we know.
Fox?
Well, he went on Fox News, and he was talking to, I think this was Jenna Lee, I think it's Jenna Lee. Yeah, anyway, he was talking to her, and he's saying Texas is not going to accept the Obamacare provisions that are imposed on states because he says the obvious stuff. It's socialism. Obama's birth certificate is questionable. He may be a Native American, Hindu, Muslim. You know, who knows who he is. Let's get a listen to Rick Perry here.
Any doubt, we wanted to put it clearly to bed that Texas wasn't going to be a part of it, expanding, socializing of our medicine.
Right.
So we're not going to participate in exchanges. We're not going to expand Medicaid. We're just not going to be a part of, again, socializing health care in the state of Texas.
Right. So as we know, though, Lewis, the reality is that what on earth is socialist about giving tens of millions of new customers to for-profit insurance companies? That's a strange brand of socialism if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. And how exactly is it like killing 1,000 people?
Well, no. That's the fascinating part. Let's get to the Titanic part.
Okay.
Here's more of Rick Perry, OBGYN, on Fox News.
Expand this program is not unlike adding 1,000 people to the Titanic. You're going to further drive this country into debt, and that's really what we're discussing here.
All right, so let's look, first of all, let's look at some facts, Lewis. Number one, Obamacare is not a tax increase, but more importantly, number two, over 10 years, it is actually a budget reduction, not an expansion of debt. But let's take it at face value for what Rick Perry is saying. Medicaid expansion is like adding 1,000 people to the Titanic. What if those people were tasked with keeping an eye out for icebergs, Lewis? That's what he's not considering here.
I think 1,000 more people might have, perhaps one of them would have been able to spot it.
You would think so. Now let's actually look at the Texas numbers, because number one, Rick Perry says Texas healthcare is fine without any help from, any guidance from anybody else. Blatantly false. Blatantly false. Healthcare, along with education, two areas where Texas ranks near the bottom of the barrel in the country. And as we know, when we look at the transfers of money between states, predominantly blue states receiving far less money back from the federal government than they are sending out, and states like Texas and many other red states receiving way more money, essentially on government welfare, if you will, for state welfare than many other than most blue states and many other states altogether. So Rick Perry, living in a fantasy world, as you know, he's probably not the right guy to take gynecological advice from, in spite of what he thinks.
Also not a guy to not take healthcare advice from.
Also not a guy to take healthcare advice from, or electoral advice from, or educational advice from, or law enforcement and capital punishment advice from, unless you think killing innocent people via the death penalty is really a great idea. But let's see this from Rick Perry's perspective, right? He's usually only allowed to kill people through Texas's archaic death penalty laws. Maybe he sees this as a potential way to kill people by keeping them from basic health care. I don't know. I really hope not. I'm not making the accusation. I'm only asking the question because his view of Obamacare is just so tainted with hyperbole and nonsense that there has to be something sinister going on.
Yeah, this is clearly a man who does not even understand the most fundamental concepts of our healthcare system. And he's probably assuming that the people who are uninsured or would be uninsured without Obamacare would be the poor, and I'm sure he's fine if the poor die off.
Well, I don't know who he thinks would be. Maybe he doesn't think the uninsured are a problem, but we shouldn't be surprised, right? I mean, after all, Rick Perry's the guy who couldn't out-debate Herman Cain and Rick Santorum. How do we expect him to understand a thing about what would be good for the residents of Texas?
Not going to happen.
Mitt Romney has a love-hate affair with Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts. Now, when I say a love-hate affair, I mean he's violently flip-flopping from diametrically opposed views. Okay? Let's take the then and now approach to what's going on. Before John Roberts was part of the majority decision in upholding Obamacare, aka Romney Care, aka the Affordable Care Act, as constitutional, Mitt Romney actually said that John Roberts was one of his favorite Supreme Court justices. Now, don't take my word for it. Let's look at the video, Lewis.
Okay. Present the evidence.
Okay, here it is.
Justices like Roberts, Alito, Thomas, and Scalia.
We had 9
There
judges.
we go. There it is. There is Mitt Romney saying, who are your favorite justices? Let's just do it one more time, Lewis, just to have, like Phil Davison said,
clarity.
I want clarity this evening, afternoon.
Justices like Roberts, Alito, Thomas, and Scalia.
Roberts, Alito, Thomas, and Scalia. There we go. Okay, but now what? Now what is his view? I think we can all guess exactly what Mitt Romney's view is now about Justice John Roberts. But let's take a listen, Lewis, just to get that evidence on the record.
To their people.
You say on your website that you would nominate justices in the mold of the Chief Justice John Roberts. Now that he's voted to uphold this law, would you still, knowing what we know now, nominate a justice like John Roberts?
Well, I certainly wouldn't nominate someone who I knew was going to come out with a decision I violently disagreed with, or vehemently rather disagreed with.
Right.
And he reached a conclusion I think that was not accurate, not an appropriate conclusion.
So wait a second. Hold on a second here. If you knew in advance how he was going to rule on certain cases, you wouldn't nominate him. Have you ever seen those hearings where they vet the Supreme Court justice nominees? And they're constantly tried to be coerced into commented on how they would rule in certain cases. And what do they say every single time, Lewis? I mean, every single one of these hearings, you hear what?
Listen, they can't comment on it.
I can't comment on how I would rule on a topic that may come before the court. So, number one, Mitt Romney is saying that if he were to have knowledge that he really shouldn't have, and that we just don't have, and that no matter how many times opposing members of the House and Senate try to ask these candidates, we never get out of them, these nominees. But number two, wait a second. The guy who might be president would change his entire opinion about who would make a good Supreme Court justice based on one decision that they make. And by the way, a decision you yourself, Mitt Romney, would have agreed with had it been 5 years ago when you were governor of a liberal state that did the exact same thing. That's how you would pick Supreme Court justices? This guy's downright scary, Lewis.
It's Mitt Romney as usual. Of course he's going to say this.
Pathetic.
He might not even believe it, but he has to say that now because John Roberts is the bad guy now.
Yeah, why not respond with something that makes sense? Like, listen, when we pick a Supreme Court justice, we have to look at qualifications and governing philosophy, and will they uphold the law as they see it. We can't just go by individual decisions that are based on complex discussions that people who study and understand the law have to make, not people like me who made millions of dollars destroying jobs at Bain Capital, because I don't really know much about the law. John Roberts presumably does, or at least I thought he did when George W. Bush nominated him. Let's let him make those decisions. It would be immature of me to say that I would change my opinion about who makes a good justice based on one individual decision. You can't say that, though.
No.
Can't say that. Maybe he can't say it because he doesn't believe it. Maybe he can't say it because it would be politically inconvenient. Maybe it just doesn't even cross his mind. I don't know. But we are in serious trouble if that's going to be the governing philosophy in the next 4 years, because we realistically may have some Supreme Court appointments.
It can't happen, right? It can't possibly happen.
Romney winning?
Yeah.
I really hope not.
We'll
I
see.
am scared, though. I woke up in a cold sweat last night.
I had nightmares about it.
Yeah. Contraception saves 250,000 lives per year, according to a study, a paper led by John Cleland, a professor at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and this appeared in The Lancet just a couple days ago. This is fascinating because we hear so much from the right wing, the religious right, about we have no evidence that contraception does anything positive. We should be teaching abstinence only. We should be teaching absolutely no, we should be legislating absolutely no abortions of any kind, etc., etc. Turns out that contraceptive use saves the lives of more than 250 million women every single year, either from death in childbirth or from unsafe abortions, according to the estimates that were published. In 2008, 355,000 women died while giving birth or from illegal or dangerous abortions, according to the study published in The Lancet. More than 250,000 deaths were averted because contraception reduced unwanted pregnancies. This is the argument that is so obvious to anyone who can think even remotely critically. If you want to prevent abortions, you have access to contraception, because what does contraception do? It prevents pregnancy. And it's very hard to have an abortion if you're not pregnant. Therefore, less pregnancy means less abortion. Conservatives don't want to hear it. They don't care. They want to follow the religious dogma. They want to follow the nonsense, non-thinking, so-called pro-life, but actually anti-life. I hesitate to even call it a philosophy.
And they want to find their own studies taken from ridiculously small samples that say otherwise.
Incredibly, increased contraceptive use in developing countries has cut the number of maternal deaths by 40% in 20 years. Those are serious numbers, Louis.
Pretty huge.
It makes sense, though, when thinking about progressives and those who are against progress, that conservatives, anti-progressives, would be against one of the most decidedly positive influences, not in this country, on this planet in recent history. Yet another reason why pro-lifers should really be called anti-choicers.
We could play the language game. Why not?
Or anti-lifers.
They
even.
play it.
Texas voter ID laws accept gun licenses, but not Social Security cards. Perfect, Louis. You just have to forget about legally being able to vote. Just get yourself a gun, and then you'll be able to vote, whether you're a citizen or not.
All American.
Yeah, there you go. The U.S. Department of Justice and Texas legislature is going to court over the controversial voter ID law in Texas. The law, SB 14, requires voters to show one of a very narrow list of government-issued documents, which don't include Social Security cards, Medicaid, or student ID cards, to vote. And according to the U.S. Department of Justice, Texas SB 14 would disenfranchise at least 600,000 voters who currently lack necessary photo ID. That minority registered voters will be disproportionately affected by the law. Of course, we know, Louis, voter ID laws are meant to help Republicans. Voter ID laws are going to prevent people likely to vote for Democrats from voting. And reducing the number of people that vote helps Republicans. Very, very clear. But particularly funny here is the idea that a Social Security card would not allow you to vote, but a gun permit actually would. Definitely goes even further into showing us whose interests are at heart here when we look at voter ID and so-called voter fraud, which is only about 3 to 5% as likely as getting hit by lightning. Someone impersonating another voter to vote is only about 3 to 5% as likely as being hit by lightning.
Yeah. I will say that a gun ID does, I believe, have a picture on it.
It does, yeah.
But, I mean, a Social Security card in combination with anything that has your picture and your name on it should be perfectly valid.
Taking a look at this at a broader level, there's nothing wrong with a gun permit allowing someone to vote. The problem is the disproportionate nature and the other thing is who's most likely to have a gun permit?
Republicans.
Not poor people.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I guess not. I mean,
obtaining a gun permit costs money. Going through the safety course costs money. Buying a gun costs money. Who doesn't have money? Poor people.
Right. Right.
Yet another way to disenfranchise voters who are unlikely to vote for Republicans. Let's take a break. On today's bonus show, we've got a ton of great stories for you, including a new laser government scanner that you might not even know about, cloned horses competing in the Olympics, and Google being fined for ignoring some privacy settings. Get the bonus show. Back after this.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
The David Pakman Show membership program is made possible in part by liberalbias.com. Liberal bias can be found in the most amazing places. Did you know even single-celled organisms like yeast can be guilty of liberal bias? It's hard to believe, Lewis, but you can find out more about that and other sources of liberal bias at liberalbias.com. I want to say hello to Daniel Gordon. Daniel Gordon, a new David Pakman Show member. It's great to have him aboard. Oh, this is the good North Korean techno. I like this one.
It's probably, oh, it's not my favorite
I
one.
think this is my favorite.
Really?
Crank this one up. I like it. Give us another another cut from your repertoire.
Well, here's my favorite.
Okay.
I use it sparingly.
This is like an old classic.
This is the original.
When you hear this now, it's almost like hearing a song you've heard a million times. You know,
it warms my heart.
it's like hearing the first few bars to Rush's Tom Sawyer. It's become almost anthemic.
That's right. It's a beautiful thing.
All right, well, Daniel Gordon, welcome as a David Pakman Show member. You can find out more at davidpakman.com/membership. If you thought birthers disappeared, well, you were just flat out wrong. Birthers are now trying to get Barack Obama's name removed from the ballot in Ohio. Now, I know what you're saying. He showed us the birth certificate. He showed us the short form, the long form, the plagiarized one, the doctored one. He showed us all the different birth certificates. What about the birth certificate now? Now the focus is going from the birth certificate to the Social Security number in Ohio. Now, of course, when we need birther news, we turn to right-wing propaganda site WorldNet Daily. WorldNet Daily is saying, if Obama has an immediate eligibility problem, it's more likely from the Social Security number he's been using for the last 35 years than from the birth certificate. Really? Then why did you focus for 2 years on the birth certificate if the problem is really the Social Security number? Ohio private investigator Susan Daniels has seen to that. She filed a suit in Ohio demanding that John Husted, Ohio Secretary of State, remove Obama's name from the ballot until Obama can prove the validity of his Social Security number. Okay, well, what's wrong with the Social Security number, Lewis? Can you guess?
No, I can't.
Oh, well, nothing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, next story. No, I'll tell you what it is that they're alleging is wrong with it. The case is based on the claim that the first 3 digits of Obama's Social Security number were only issued to people born, this is so absurd, in Connecticut, okay? Now, there was research done about this. Media Matters did some research on this, and they quickly discovered that prior to, this is according to the Social Security Administration, prior to 1972, cards were issued in local Social Security Social Security offices around the country, and the area number represented the state where the card was issued. This didn't have to be the state where the applicant lived, since someone could apply for their card in any office. That's number one. Now, since 72, when they were all assigned centrally from Baltimore, the area number was based on the zip code in the mailing address provided on the application. Again, that mailing address does not have to be where the person lives. It doesn't have to be anything. It just has to be where the person is able to receive mail. Okay? So again, more insane birther conspiracies. Just as a point of reference, birther Queen Orly Tates, who's been on the show a couple of times, I've somehow gotten on her mailing list. And I get emails from her almost daily about different filings she's doing in courts, different conflicts she's having with different magistrates and judges all across the country about Obama eligibility. And also the most fascinating thing, if you're on Orly Tates' email list, is she's constantly emailing out talking about how her website's been hacked and she's not able to email out, she's not able to keep filing lawsuits against Obama's Social Security cards because people keep hacking her website. And very often afterwards, it becomes revealed that it was just like user error or some kind of incompetence that led to the so-called downtime. Yeah. It's one of the funniest mailing lists I've ever been on. I would actually, the only reason I'm not removing myself is because it's so damn funny.
It is completely ridiculous. But, I mean, as funny as that is, having her on the show, she's one of the most boring people I've ever heard in my life.
I know. Well, it's impossible to get her to stop filibustering, but...
Yeah.
Speaking of birthers, Florida Republicans are hailing Donald Trump as Statesman of the Year. This story isn't a joke, although I would imagine you would think that. The conspiracy theorist and real estate millionaire, Donald Trump, is going to be regaled by Florida's Sarasota Republican Party as Statesman of the Year in this huge, elaborate fundraising dinner. This story is not a joke, again, I will state. Now, Trump is, of course, not a statesman at all, but he is raising money for Mitt Romney. And according to Sarasota Republican Chair Joe Gruters, he's a sage, skillful, and respected leader who's doing, quote, all he can to take our country back. Now, again, this is not a parody article. This is for real. Donald Trump now for over a year has been espousing the conspiracy theories about where was Obama born, is he eligible to be president, what's the deal with his birth certificate, et cetera, et cetera. And incredibly enough, a recent New York Times CBS poll found that close to half of all Republican voters think Obama wasn't born in the U.S. What's scary is these people who don't think Obama was born in the U.S., they might be delivering your mail. They might be making your food at a restaurant. They could even be your doctor. Mm-hmm. Would you really be comfortable having a doctor who's going around on birther websites thinking that the president might be a Native American, Indonesian, Muslim anarchist Marxist?
I would not.
I wouldn't.
That would make me very uncomfortable.
I'm glad my doctor is progressive.
Happy for you.
Although I haven't specifically asked him about this birther issue, but I have a sense.
Yeah, you never know.
I guess in a way, Donald Trump is the greatest thinker of the Tea Party movement. It's just that it's a pretty low bar.
That could very well be. Yeah.
Here's something else I want to warn you about. Family-friendly cities. Is family-friendly city a real thing? Or is it just a dog whistle for conservatives? Is it just a new conservative scam? Is it a code for right-wing social agenda? Now, a lot of cities are invoking family-friendly as an advertising strategy to make cities appear attractive for families to move there, apparently. And the question is, what exactly is that based on? Is it the availability of urban amenities? Like, for example, it's a city, but it still has public pools, parks, zoos, museums. Is that it? Is it the type of thing where the home ownership and I don't know, proximity to schools is favorable for families? Or is it conservative social agenda? The reality, and I asked a couple of urban planners about this, is urban planners don't know what family-friendly city means. And therefore, we need to be on the alert that this could be either from the get-go or it could be hijacked by the conservative social agenda to really be code for it's really hard, there's no abortion clinics, it's really hard to get an abortion, and it's a state where there's no gay marriage, and what else? I mean, what else would make a city right-leaning on as far as social agenda goes?
I mean, those are the major ones. I don't know.
Yeah.
Number of churches.
Oh, that's the other thing, of course. A lot of churches, because churches by definition are pro-family.
Right.
Even if they are wildly, violently homophobic. Mm-hmm. Of course, churches are pro-family.
Right. And molesting your children.
So be on the lookout. Right, of course, and involved in cover-ups of child molestation. Mm. Fascinating how one of the indicators of a so-called family-friendly city is probably something that would make you have your kids under very close supervision, maybe not even involved at all.
Messed up.
All right. So be aware, family-friendly city. I would be concerned. Facebook.com/David Pakman Show. Let's take a break, Lewis. When we come back, I want to talk about a potential new obesity vaccine. Of course, Lewis isn't interested and thinks that it's completely bogus, but we'll hash that all out after the break.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
All right, I want to take a second to talk about what's happening on the David Pakman Show the next couple of months. At the end of this month, Lewis, we are going to be we don't take them often, but we're going to be off for a little bit. I will be visiting family down in Argentina. Lewis is going to be flying out to the West Coast. Who knows what kind of hijinks he's going to get himself involved in there. Certainly taking your flight sickness patches, right, with you.
You know, I don't have any, unfortunately. I'm on my own.
Uh-oh. Can't you just get a few before you go?
Yeah, I probably could. You know, they're so expensive. I don't even know if it's worth it.
Really? You may have overcome your fear.
I don't know. Maybe I will do it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, so in and around this short vacation that we're going to be having, we're going to be exploring a lot of possibilities for the next step for the show. And I want to be very clear and really thank everybody, because the reason we've even been able to get to where we are now has been because of the success of the membership program. When we started the membership program, a once-a-week show, and because of the membership program, we expanded to 2 times per week and are now up to 4 times per week, Monday through Thursday. And really, a lot of what happens next, Lewis, is also going to depend on the success of the membership program. So this is, I know we mention it and we joke around about it and we welcome new members, but I want to very clearly say that this is really the time to become a David Pakman Show member. We're talking about pennies a day here. A lot of people tell me they throw away way more money on this without even realizing it, on coffees and, if you're Lewis, aloe drinks and iced teas, than you would on supporting real independent media. And I hope that we can continue and move on to the next steps. We're going to be evaluating a lot of things soon and seeing what are the next steps, what's the absolute max that we can continue to do as far as benefits and features, etc. The full 1-hour television program, which is now available exclusively to David Pakman Show members, is so popular. I'm getting so many emails. We recently added this feature. People love it. They just like having the entire show as one video clip that they can watch with no commercials. So definitely some added incentive. We have a small staff here. Everybody does a lot of jobs. We are hoping to be adding even more stuff for people. So really, this is the time. We want to make July the best month for new memberships as possible, so that as we go into the end of July and into August, we can take the David Pakman Show to the next level as we approach the 2012 election.
Yeah, we got to keep this going.
Got to keep it going. DavidPakman.com/membership. We're really talking about pennies a day here. We're talking about $60 for an entire year. We're talking about $6 a month. For a lot of people, this is doable. And people have this kind of abstract idea of, well, we don't really know where the money goes, and it's not that clear that my contribution really makes a difference. Listen, when you donate to some organization where, who knows, 80% of that is going who knows where, and maybe 20% is going to what you actually contributed for, here the funds are kept 100% in-house, Lewis, and really go to getting more server space, being able to store larger videos, being able to add more features, being able to upgrade the studio and do better interviews and do three-way interviews, so on and so forth. I mean, all these different things come directly from membership funding. And I want to make that very clear because I think a lot of people don't know that.
Right. It is very important. It is invaluable to the show.
I got an email from Mike Drew saying that mentioning my name at a party kind of became a party stopper. I was a little bit bummed out, honestly, when I read this email. He says, "Hey, David Pakman, I was talking to a guy at a party tonight and things were going well. Then I mentioned that he looked like you. After that, he basically avoided me. What's up with that?" Now, I guess, I don't know whether things were going well in what sense. Like, you were hitting on this guy? Was this some kind of, were you courting him? In other words, in some kind of gay potential dating situation? Or what does going well mean? I don't know what that means.
I don't know. Could have just been a good conversation. Good
conversation was going on.
I think it's fair to say that whatever the case, this guy is probably a Republican.
Well, I don't know. Or maybe he just said, who's David Pakman? That's really the most likely thing. And then the guy said, that's really weird to just mention a guy's name that I don't know. But in any case, I apologize. I mean, usually mentioning my name, it doesn't really add anything at parties usually, but it rarely creates a bad social situation, I think. I've never seen someone say, you look like David Pakman, and then the party ends.
Well, I mean, I don't think the whole party stopped, just a small part of it.
As far as Mike Drew was concerned, the party was over.
Right.
Does it ever happen when somebody mentions, hey, I love Krakatoa metal band, that it's just like the record skips and party's over?
No, the party gets like 1,000 times better.
Is that right? Yeah. That's really good. I need to work on that.
That's when the strippers come in and the confetti falls from the ceiling and the fireworks go off.
It gets that crazy. Yep. Indoors, fireworks indoors.
Yep.
Incredible. Incredible. Hell of a party.
I can't even explain it.
The world's first anti-obesity vaccine is being tested. Now, of course, Lewis is already really upset about this. He hates the prospect of any kind of new technology that he doesn't fully understand or see the personal benefit for. That being said, this is showing promising results for boosting weight loss. This is made by Broth Biotech LLC. The study was published in the Journal of Animal Science and Biotechnology, which is an open access publication of Biomed Central. So how does this work? Well, this is a vaccine, a shot, derived from a peptide hormone called somatostatin, tested in 2 groups on mice, okay? It was compared with mice receiving only a saline injection, okay, as a kind of placebo or control group. And what it does is it inhibits the growth hormone and insulin-like growth factor, both of which increase metabolism and result in weight loss. So it's not so much a vaccine per se, but it is an injection that stimulates weight loss in what seems to be a medically justifiable way.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, vaccine does really seem to be the wrong term for this.
Okay, so let's assume the vaccine is not the right term, it's an injection.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that this may be legitimate?
Yes, that seems a bit more legitimate, and it seems like the type of thing that wouldn't necessarily work in everyone, but if it has a high success rate and is harmless, then great, but it's certainly not a vaccine.
Well, the mice in all of the groups were fed a high-fat diet for 8 weeks, okay, and then they continued that diet during the 6-week study. The vaccinations were given twice at the start of the study, and then a booster on day 22, according to the Journal of Animal Science and Biotechnology. 4 days after the first injection, the vaccinated mice had a 10% drop in body weight compared to the saline-injected mice.
Right.
Seems pretty serious.
I guess. Of course, we're talking about mice here.
Now, the question here is, people talk about obese people being obese because they're lazy. Of course, that's not true in all cases. What about obese people being skinny because of laziness, because they're able to just get a shot and lose weight?
If they're people who are going to be lazy anyway, then so what?
Well, the question is...
It's not like this will promote...
health. That's the thing. Is someone who gets thin from a vaccine going to be sustainably healthy compared to someone who gets thin via eating right and exercising? I don't think so.
No, I think people will maintain their bad eating habits, and I think some will even move on to worse eating habits or pick up bad eating habits because they have this this solution here that will help keep the weight down.
Yeah, it's just not clear to me that if you lose weight as a result of this shot that you'll actually be healthier. Also, another question is, how long does the vaccine last?
Good question. I don't think it states that here.
All right. Well, would you take such a vaccine? Are you overweight, and would you prefer to lose weight the old-fashioned way, diet and exercise, or what about getting a shot that will inhibit growth hormone, a peptide hormone, somatostatin? I don't know. You tell me. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more after this. A lot to talk about, including some incredible stories after the break.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. A lot of confusion behind the scenes here, Lewis, but we'll get it all sorted out. Don't worry. Elric Sean Milner allegedly raped a teen girl. Her subsequent boyfriend found video evidence, and now there is an actual police investigation going on. This is unbelievable. As the story goes, the alleged victim, whose name has not been released, says that she visited the apartment of Elric Sean Milner in August of 2010, and she told police that Milner gave her a large amount of alcohol, and when she woke up the next morning, she had no recollection of what had happened. Then Milner allegedly showed her videos of himself and another man forcing her to perform sexual acts while she begged them to stop. She was 17 at the time of the incident. She can be seen vomiting and urinating on herself while Milner laughs, according to KHOU. The teen girl told basically no one about it for almost 2 years, okay? Then she told her new boyfriend about what had happened, and her new boyfriend previously served as a military police officer with the U.S. Marines. He wanted to come up with a way to basically do an investigation of his own to get some evidence about what happened and go to the police. So he actually created a situation where he ended up befriending the alleged rapist, and through some kind of roundabout means, gaining his confidence and getting him, without disclosing that he was dating this same girl who this man had allegedly raped, showing him the video. Okay, now we don't know whether he actually obtained a copy of the video to bring to police or not, but what we do know is that he was shown the video and he was able to provide enough information to, well, he was able to persuade his girlfriend to go to the police, and then with additional information that the evidence existed, and presumably that was enough to subpoena the documents. This is incredible. Now Milner has been charged with aggravated sexual assault and is being held on $50,000 bond. Prosecutors do now have the video. It will be used as evidence. Incredible.
Pretty amazing, yeah. Pretty amazing that he didn't just beat the guy to death.
That's the other thing. It's incredible restraint. Of course, we don't advocate vigilante justice, but when a situation of such terror and emotion like that.
Especially when actually watching the video next to the guy.
Especially when watching the video. I can't imagine being in this situation. Now, will this stand up legally?
Good question. Like you said, we don't know if he made a copy of the tape, if he took the tape, if he stole the tape.
The police have obtained it.
Oh, okay.
It is now evidence.
I'm sure it will stand up. Yeah. Seems like everything was done legally. The guy didn't have the presence of mind to get rid of the tape. I don't know.
Well, he was probably keeping it to watch it.
Well, yeah, but...
what would you do if you were this ex-Marine guy in the situation? Would you even start an investigation? If you did, would you be able to... I mean, I don't know. It's hard to imagine.
Here's the thing. If the girl were to go to the police and say, this is what happened, there's a video of it, they might not be able to get that subpoena immediately, and they might question the guy first, which would give him time to get rid of the tape.
Right.
That was probably this guy's thought process, so he figured he would do things this way. This is probably the only way it could have worked out.
All right, there you go. Incredible story. Also, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Craig Sanford's defense attorney was able to delay the inevitable for his client, asking that sentencing be scheduled for later. Of course, Craig Sanford is a 59-year-old who says that his impregnating of a 16-year-old student was not a crime, but instead, it was a love story. He pleaded no contest to the charges as part of an agreement with prosecutors, where he also pleaded a no contest to 2 counts of distributing sexually explicit material, in addition to this act of impregnating the 16-year-old. Under the agreement, Sanford also has to register as a sex offender and is going to lose his teaching certificate. Both seem perfectly warranted. Mental illness, right? I mean, how can a love story as opposed to a crime?
Well, this is, I don't even know if you'd call this pedophilia. I mean, it might be depending on the state's laws. But
the girl was not prepubescent, I think, is your argument.
There are a lot of situations in which pedophiles say, no, like, you know, the child loves me, like, we love you. It's like, it's a love thing. I feel like this probably fits into that same category. And yeah, I would, I mean, I'm afraid to classify it as mental illness, because that would open the door to him being found innocent based on mental illness.
Of course. And again, nobody's saying that this guy is a pedophile. The girl is 16. But it gets us into an interesting question. When you see an age disparity in relationships, let's assume we're not talking about any relationship that is illegal according to the law. Okay, so we're talking about legal relationships. What's your barometer for what age disparity you find to be appropriate?
Well, I think that's irrelevant, because the states have their own laws.
No, but I'm just saying personally. Personally, when you hear that someone who's 60 is marrying someone who's 20, okay? Yeah. Or you hear someone who's 40 is marrying someone who's 23.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to have their own reaction to what kind of age disparity makes sense.
I think once someone is 18, it doesn't matter how old the other person is.
I'm not saying it matters legally, but do you really think that...
I think if an 80-year-old wants to marry an 18-year-old, that's fine. Everybody knows what's going on there in a situation like that. Okay. Whatever.
You just don't care. You just think it's you have no reaction to it. I know you're saying it's fine.
Like if my dad married an 18-year-old for some reason, he's married to my mother. Right. I would say, you're an idiot, but I wouldn't hate the guy. I'd say, that's probably the dumbest thing you've ever done.
So you just so really what you're saying, but so then okay, that's good. We're getting to that. If they were only 25 years apart, would you still think it was dumb? Like, at what age difference do you start thinking this guy's an idiot?
I can't answer that. I mean, you have to gauge the person, you have to gauge the people and their maturity level and their intentions. It's too vague.
Could there be a situation where one of the individuals is 80 and one of the individuals is 20, and you wouldn't think that it's some kind of odd or bizarre situation?
Impossible.
Okay, so if there's a 60-year difference, then you're thinking it's weird.
If it's a 60-year difference, there's something financial going on.
What about 145?
Same thing.
Okay. What do you think about this? I mean, there's no set answer. You know, sometimes you get an impression about a couple. The age difference may be part of it.
Anyway, 59 and 16, despicable.
You have a problem with that?
Pretty bad, yeah.
All right. Americans favor President Obama to defend them against space aliens than they do Mitt Romney. Nearly 2 in 3 Americans think that Barack Obama is better suited than Mitt Romney to deal with an alien invasion, according to a survey released by the National Geographic Channel based on 1,114 adults. This was kind of a part of their documentary series on chasing UFOs. 36% of respondents say they are certain that unidentified flying objects exist. 11% were confident that they had spotted a UFO, and 20% said they knew someone who had seen one. Does this tell us anything about the electorate for this upcoming election, Lewis?
No. No, because this is, I don't know, this is just a poll that's specifically about this.
A lot of people taking the poll were confused. They thought they were actually voting for Will Smith's character from the movie Independence Day. So some confusion built into the study.
Or perhaps people thought it was like aliens from Mexico, like illegal aliens.
Interestingly enough, I do agree. If Mitt Romney's plan for so-called illegal aliens or illegal immigrants was self-deportation, he's probably not going to do that much better with aliens from an actual other planet.
Right, right. Things are going to get pretty complicated when you start talking about deporting extraterrestrials.
Yeah, they really are. Let's go to some of your email. You can email us through davidpakman.com or comment on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Chris Christie blowing up at a heckler while eating an ice cream cone. Christie is the epitome of pure class that Jersey is known for. I know people from New Jersey that are perfectly classy.
That's true. And I know a lot from Jersey that are not.
All you really need to say is he blew up at a heckler. We already knew he'd be eating ice cream. And looks like a real public servant. So people not too thrilled with Chris Christie, I have to say.
I'm pretty confident that the vast majority of our listeners do not like Chris Christie.
On the gun being pulled during a live television debate on Jordanian television, I clicked on the video thinking it was a Republican debating. No, it was in Jordan. It wasn't even in the United States. And I can hardly wait for gunplay to break out on the set of Hannity or Hardball. Come on, America, get with the program. And I wonder when the Tea Partiers in Congress will try this. They already did, right? I mean, we already saw proposals about members of Congress should be able to carry guns on Capitol Hill.
And I support it 100%.
Do you?
I'm not kidding. I do.
What if you're there on a tour? Or as you like to call it, a tour?
That's fine.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm 100% behind that legislation.
And on the Romney supporter gagging a protester with a handkerchief, I would have the urge to knock the old man on his butt, but it's an old man, so I probably wouldn't have. Lewis saying unless the guy died, he wouldn't have felt bad about punching the guy.
True.
Shoving a handkerchief in someone's mouth could be classified as assault. Yeah, shouldn't it be?
Definitely. Same with the water bottle.
And I'm surprised the Romney supporter didn't shove a $20 bill in the guy's mouth. That's the thing. You would think that only rich people vote for Romney, but a lot of poor people voting against their own best interest do too, right, Lewis?
See, I think the handkerchief is the perfect example of a Romney supporter.
Is that right?
Who carries a handkerchief around anymore? Who takes this rag that's covered in snot that you keep blowing your nose on and wiping your face with 1,000,000 times? You stuff it back in your pocket.
I disagree. You know why?
It's a crusty, booger-ridden rag. And then this guy shoves it in some guy's mouth. That guy probably got a mouthful of snot.
It's actually sustainable because you're not throwing away paper towels and napkins. You wash the thing. Of course, you use water and electricity. The electricity probably comes from coal. You're also using soaps that probably have harsh chemicals and maybe developed in plastic bottles where the production of the plastic bottles causes people cancer who live in the area. Well, maybe a paper towel is better. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But I suppose you could have tissues that are biodegradable and made from recycled materials.
The guy was using tissues made from composted vegetables. How about that?
So well, they do make spoons from potatoes.
He actually just used grass to wipe his nose. He picked up grass. And the grass was grown with no acid rain somehow.
That is perfectly sustainable.
Okay, on today's bonus show, a hidden government laser scanner. Would you feel it as an invasion of privacy, or would you actually prefer it to invasive screening methods, for example, if used by TSA? Also, cloned horses allowed to compete in the Olympics. Probably won't see them this year, but maybe in 2016. And Google is fined for ignoring some privacy settings of certain internet users. We'll talk about that. You've got to be getting the bonus show. It's hosted by producer Louis Motamedi. You can find out more at davidpakman.com/membership. That's it for today's show. Get the bonus show. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon. Plenty more to talk about. Stay tuned. We'll be back.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.